There are over 35,000 museums within the United States, welcoming over 850 million visitors each year. Did you ever wonder what goes on behind the scenes in museums, creating the displays and exhibits we all enjoy? Join us as we explore museums and their exhibits from the inside out. Hi, I'm Leslie Mueller. Welcome to Museum Access, the show that takes you behind the scenes at America's top museums. Today we'll be getting a rare glimpse of aviation history. We'll be visiting a special traveling aviation museum called the National Wings of Freedom Tour. The Collings Foundation, based in Stowe, Massachusetts, organizes an over 110-city tour of the United States with restored World War II airplanes that have a long history of military service. We'll see the B-17 Flying Fortress and the P-51 Mustang fighter aircraft. Both airplanes were legendary in their roles in the daylight bombing campaign of World War II. We'll learn about what it takes to restore these national treasures and keep them flying. We'll also take a look inside and get a behind-the-scenes look during an actual flight. It looks like they're about ready to land, so let's get going. So the P-51 has landed.
Yep.
Tell me about this gorgeous airplane.
Okay, this is a World War II fighter that came out later in the war. This had the range that could give the bombers coverage all the way to any target in Germany and back. The earlier fighters, the P-47s and other earlier fighters, didn't have the range. They could go a certain distance, and then they had to...
Was it because of fuel?
Yeah, they just didn't have the range because of fuel. And this plane here had an 80-gallon fuel tank in the cockpit behind the pilot. It has two large wing tanks, and then they would put drop tanks on the bottom of it. And early on, the drop tanks were made out of aluminum, but later on, as aluminum became more scarce, they made them out of papier-mâché.
Oh my gosh, and it didn't eat through?
No, no. And when they would fly off the fuel and the fuselage tank and the drop tanks first. When they got into combat, drop the tanks. And then they had the fuel in the wings.
And they could probably pick up some speed that way, too.
Well, yeah, they sure. Yeah, they picked up speed when they dropped the drop tanks.
Sure.
But they still had a lot of range left with the fuel in the wings.
That's brilliant. Now, is it a two-seater then? It's a two-man?
No, this airplane is a two-seater. This has been modified into a two-seater. It was after the war. The Air Force wanted some trainers because there were no trainer Mustangs, all single-seaters. They would train at a T6, which was a two-seat trainer, and after so many hours, the instructor would sign them off.
Bye-bye, good luck.
And say, here it is.
Wow.
And the Air Force wanted 15 modified after the war, and this company in Texas Engineering and Manufacturing, otherwise known as TEMCO, developed the modification, and it's called the TF modification. They were made as trainers. And what really made the P-51 what it is the Rolls-Royce design Merlin engine. The original P-51s had an Allison engine, but when you got up to altitude, it didn't have the two-stage supercharger. When you got up to altitude, it would lose oomph. And this has a two-stage supercharger, and that made the airplane what it is. And it was some of the A models that the English had in the field, and they modified them and put Merlins in, because they had Merlins for their Spitfires. And that made her what she is.
So did that have an impact on daylight bombing also? So daylight bombing is now more possible? Because weren't the Brits just doing nighttime bombing?
Yeah. Improved the survival rate of bomber crews immensely to have this that could give them the coverage all the way to the bomb target and back.
Did that mean they might have more than one mission per day? because of
No,
they
the
were
missions
able
were
to-
pretty long. The missions were usually
4 or 5
5,
hours.
6,
Yeah.
sometimes 7 or 8 hours. So they would do one mission a day, and then he'd come back, and of course the ground crew would stay up all night fixing whatever needed to be fixed so they could fly again the next day.
Send it back out again.
Yeah.
But I thought you were saying that folks were staying in a little bit longer,
Right.
Because
and
the fatality rate was not as high.
Because the Mustang gave the bomber such good coverage, they bumped up the number of missions required of a bomber crew from 30 to 35
As a
before they
result.
could get out. Before they could get out, yeah.
Well,
Their survival rate went up so much.
I'm dying to take a closer look. Can we
Okay.
climb up there?
Well, we certainly can.
Okay, let's give it a whirl.
Top of the tire like this.
Got it.
And I know you're wearing a skirt. I know this is going to be a little more difficult for you than
I can
me.
swing around on my rear end.
And then you're going to put your left foot at an angle like this.
Got it.
And then you're going to come right up here on your knee.
Got it.
And then you're going to slide across to the black strip on your knees and then stand up.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. You're up already. Okay.
You want me to come back down?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Left, right, left.
Okay, you're good. There you go.
I was just going to go like that.
Here you go. Hey, that
Is that
works.
close enough?
That works.
Like a
Absolutely,
monkey.
that works.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that wasn't on tape. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Whoa. No, I was just kidding.
Oh.
So tell me what we're looking at here.
Okay. Well, this is the cockpit, P-51. You've got the throttle right here. You've got the stick, the control stick right there.
Okay.
And you've got all your instruments. You've got your airspeed.
So communication,
altimeter.
everything is happening from here.
Yeah, it's all right
Okay.
here. Yep.
And in World War II, there would not have been the seat in the back. In
Right.
other words, so that just would have been
There would
fuel
have been
tank.
a fuel tank
Yeah,
and the
okay.
battery back there.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
No, this is so cool to see
Yeah.
this. It's great.
Yeah.
And it's not as high as you would think.
No.
You could see how this could kind of get in and out of
It's very,
formations
very
and-
maneuverable.
very
It's
maneuverable.
Very maneuverable.
You love
Yeah.
flying this one?
The one chance I've had to fly in this one, yes, absolutely.
Well, when we saw it landing, it was like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can feel the power
Oh, yeah.
and how
Yeah,
quick it
no,
is.
Yeah. You know, when you fly in this thing, you bring the power up. Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Mhm.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, thanks so much for showing us the
Sure.
inside. What a great inside
Yeah.
peek here.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is it like to fly one of these P-51 Mustangs?
Well, it's a lot of fun. It's a great airplane. It's got for a propeller-driven airplane, it's got a very good performance. It's got a 1,500 horsepower engine on the front of it, and it's got a drinking problem though. It burns about a gallon a minute. So
Whoa.
it's
Well, you say it's fun. It's got to be a lot more fun when you're not getting enemy fire.
You know, that's the thing. You know, that what people don't realize. We're out and they talk about how much fun they are to fly and going to air shows and doing stuff like that. Well, that's the fun side of it, you know. But the guys that, you know, the veterans that come out here and come out and visit our tour, you know, they talk about all the missions and you say, well, you know, were y'all having fun? Well, they weren't having fun. They were getting shot at.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of their buddies didn't come back, and so they were working the airplanes.
Mhm.
And so what we're doing is a whole lot different. We're actually able to enjoy it as a machine rather than what it is a tool of war.
Yeah, that makes sense. And all the people that come here get a chance to see a living piece of history.
Well, I mean, this, you know, for years and years, the P-51 was always considered the best fighter ever built, and I can't,
Arguably.
I can't disagree with that. There was a great article in Smithsonian Magazine one time said of the 20th century, of everything form, fashion, design, timeliness, the P-51 was the top. I mean, over things like the Golden Gate Bridge and the Statue of Liberty, the P-51, as far as structurally and what it did at the right time, was the height of accomplishment during the 20th century.
Well, it's a beautiful looking plane, even now. It doesn't look that old.
Yeah,
to me.
it's got beautiful lines. I mean, most of the
beautiful
jets and
lines,
stuff today don't look as good as a P-51.
They don't. I know you've got a flight coming up, so I'll let you go. But thank you so much for taking a moment and
Well, thanks for
sharing
coming out.
your thoughts.
Well, we're glad that you're out sharing what we do.
Oh, it's great. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
So we're in front of the World War II B-17. Tell me about her. She's a beauty.
Okay, this is a B-17 four-engine heavy bomber. There were about 12,500 of these built during World War II, and they flew mainly out of England and Italy to support the European theater, fighting against the Germans, against the Nazis, obviously.
So as a heavy bomber, how many bombs? What was a bomb load?
The bomb load was 6,000 pounds, and it depended on whether they were using 100, 200, 500, or 1,000-pound bombs to determine how many bombs they would carry on a mission.
And that would depend on the target?
The type of mission, exactly, yeah.
So obviously a heavy bomber like this could handle precision bombing.
Yeah.
But tell me about the difference once the Norden bomb sight came into the picture.
Yeah. Well, the Norden bomb sight greatly aided the bombardier in the accuracy of hitting the target that they were aiming for. And that was a big deal during World War II when they would bring these out and put them in the airplane right before they would take off for a mission. When the airplane came back to England, to the base, they would cover it up, take it out, and lock them up at night, yeah.
Really?
Every day, yeah.
What was the purpose of that?
Well, because to keep enemy hands from getting a hold of it. You know, you never know if there's any moles around England, you know, looking for, you know, secrets, you know, sure.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a big deal when we first got the Norden bomb sight, yeah.
So how many missions would typically a crew do in a day? Obviously D-Day, I remember my father saying they had 5 runs that day, which was unusual. But
yeah.
What was the normal?
Normally it was one mission because the missions were long. They were 5, 6, 7 hours long.
Deep into Germany.
Deep into Germany or into occupied France. And so usually they would do one mission.
So a heavy bomber like this, at the beginning of the war, was going in unescorted, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
They must have lost it.
No, they did. Early on, they were losing 30, 40% of these because they didn't have the fighter escorts that they had later on. And so back then, if you got 25 missions done, you could go home. And then when the better fighters came along, they first bumped it up to 30, and then they bumped it up to 35. Because the survival rate of these guys went way up.
So much better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about the basics. How many crew members were there?
10.
And what were their positions?
10. There was a pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer / top turret gunner. There was a bombardier, a navigator. There was a radio man. There was a ball turret gunner. There was a tail gunner.
Was a ball turret gunner the same as a belly gunner?
Well, yeah.
So he's down. Is he below the behind the bombs?
He's in the turret. He's in the turret below the airframe. Yeah.
And did all these heavy bombers have a rear gunner?
All these bombers, yeah, had a tail gunner. The chin turret was added on the G model because with just a couple of 50 calibers in the nose, that was a weak part of the airplane.
Sure.
And the Germans, of course, knew it. Yeah.
But they'd have to be coming straight on.
Yeah, but, you know, straight on and then peel off.
And are those gunners smaller physically? They've got to get into pretty small spaces.
Where? In the ball turret?
Yeah.
Ball turret, you couldn't be real big. I mean, somebody my size, I fit. You couldn't be, you know, 6'3" or 6'4". But a lot of them, they weren't as tall then as people are today.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah. And so talk to me about the whole tour. How many of these are there actually flying?
Well, some of us were talking the other night, and we figured there were 14 currently flying in the world.
In the world?
Yeah, 1 in England, 1 in France, and then 12 in the U.S. And there are several restoration projects in progress, and a restoration project on one of these is not a short-term proposition.
Yeah, or an inexpensive
Well,
proposition.
or inexpensive, and that's usually what makes it a long-term proposition is getting the financing, getting the funding to restore one of these.
So where would something like this go to be repaired? Are they all stored? Are they in Stowe, Massachusetts with Collings Foundation? No, elsewhere?
No, they never go to Stowe. These spend 10 months of the year on the road just like this, traveling museum. We do 110, 115 stops a year. The 2 months or so that we're not traveling, they're down in New Florida at a maintenance facility who does annual maintenance. But maintenance goes on all the time. All the time. I mean, there's always, maintenance. Also, because we take people for flight experiences. We have to do what's called 100-hour inspections.
Oh, sure, for the public safety.
Well, yeah,
Sure.
the FAA requires it. And so every 25 hours, we inspect one engine and 25% of the airframe.
Wow.
Yeah, but that way, we're not tying the airplane up for a great length of time.
Sure.
And then, and on to the next one.
Well, I know you're going to show me the inside. Are you ready to head in?
I'm ready to head in when you are.
Let's go.
Let's go, okay.
So now we're in the cockpit, the
Right.
control center of this
Of
B-17. Tell me what we're looking at here.
Okay, on the left we have the pilot seat, and on the right side we have the co-pilot seat. We have the throttles, and we have the mixture. We have the propeller RPM controls. We have all the engine gauges.
I mean, it's a warm day today and we have the windows open here, but I would imagine for most of the year it's pretty darn cold in here.
Even in the summertime, if you're at 25,000 feet, it's way below zero. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in outside and inside.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, this is fascinating to see this. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I know and I see the Flying Fortress logo down there.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. I'm anxious to see the rest of it.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
We're in the bomb bay.
Yes, we are. Yep.
Wow.
And this airplane could carry 6,000 pounds of bombs.
And how many pounds is this?
These are 500 pounds.
Okay, so those are 500 pounds. So if something would get caught in the bomb bay, which sometimes happen, and you don't want to land with it,
right?
What do you do?
When there was a bomb drop, and if a bomb got caught on the bomb racks, somebody would come back here. One of the gunners or somebody would come back here and give the bomb a little motivation and kick it off the bomb rack.
Are they holding on to something? Well, I mean, they're just holding on to whatever.
They're holding on, to the structure.
And kicking it down.
Yeah, and kicking it off, because you certainly don't want to bring a bomb back, especially a bomb that's in a precarious situation.
Sure, and land.
It's been released from the rack, but yet it's not completely released, so you certainly don't want to land with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this bomb bay is bigger than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, this is great. So what are we looking at here?
Okay, this is the radio operator's area.
Okay.
And all these black boxes are the old vacuum tube radios, which is this, the technology of the day.
Yeah.
Way before transistors or anything solid state.
They look like they weigh a ton.
Well, they're fairly heavy, yeah.
Yeah. So there would be two men in here or
No,
one?
One.
Just one. Okay.
Just one, yeah.
Operating all of these.
All of these, yeah.
Wow. He's got a lot of room in here, though. He's
Yeah.
got more room than anybody.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason that there's a sunroof is on the earlier models, there was a gun that's stored back in here, a 50 caliber, and in the air, they would slide it back
And just have an additional.
and have it there, and they could shoot. Well, they decided too many guys were shooting their own tail, so they eliminated it. So a lot of the later ones, don't have it, but they left the hatch in.
Well, I thought it might be an escape hatch. Is there an escape hatch on this?
Well, okay,
plane?
there's the hatch in the front that we came up
Okay.
into. Pilot and co-pilot and bombardier and navigator could jump out of that if need be.
Okay.
Of course, you got the bomb bay. Open the bomb bay doors. Anybody
Okay.
can jump out of the bomb bay. And you have a hatch back here on the side that will go out. And
Okay.
the tail gunner had his own hatch on the right side because he would get in on the ground before the flight. And so he could escape out that hatch.
Not that you ever want to do that, but
Not
it's
that you
nice
wanna
to
do
know
that.
where the
Well,
exits
well, yeah, if, you
where
know,
the exits are, right?
If the need arose,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
you want to know the quickest way out.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
And so now we have one last area back
Okay.
here.
And this is the ball turret, and the ball turret gunner.
Oh, really? It is a ball turret. Yeah.
He would get in the turret when they were up in the air. The turret can be rotated so that the hatch that's right now is outside would be up here inside.
So this opens up and he climbs into it,
climbed down
and then
into
it's
it.
glass on the bottom or
Well,
whatever,
it's glass,
so we can
on
see.
the front,
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
front of it, yeah, where the guns are, so he can see. And he could rotate, was electrically, could be rotated, vertically and, and
Like a
horizontally.
gyroscope almost.
Yeah.
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 That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then back here, obviously these seats are probably in here. They probably weren't in there
No,
before,
the
but
seats were not in here
I
for
see
World War
these.
II.
Are these 50 millimeters?
Yeah, these are all 50 caliber.
50 caliber. Okay. Wow. Oh my God.
The seats were added as part of getting this airplane set up to tour like it does.
And look at the ammunition.
Yeah, 50 caliber bullets. Yeah.
Wow. So they would go through that and then would have to load up. Would they be stored in here?
They were in here. Yeah, the
Okay.
magazines were stored in there, and it would just feed through this into the gun.
Oh yeah, you can see the rotating.
Yeah. And,
oh my God.
I mean, they could go through this whole thing really quick.
Oh yeah, in one fight. Yeah.
Yeah, if they weren't careful.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Wow, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This
you're
has
welcome.
been such a treat. After we finished our onboard tour of the B-17, we had the opportunity to take an actual flight. It was an honor to go up in the 909, named after the 91st Bomb Group. She completed an amazing 140 missions without an abort or loss of crew. I was hoping we didn't break that record. This living aviation museum also includes a B-24 bomber. The B-24 was used extensively in World War II. Along with the B-17, she was the mainstay of the U.S. strategic bombing campaign in the Western European theater, and she served in every branch of the American Armed Forces. With a wingspan of 110 feet, a maximum speed of 285 miles per hour, a range of 3,000 miles, and 10 crew members, she was the most revered bomber of World War II. My father served in the 8th Air Force during World War II, piloting bombing missions over Germany. His 33 missions made him part of an elite group of Americans that served our country proudly during the war.
The B-17 could take an awful beating. It could get shot up pretty badly and it could stay up there. It could go a little higher than the B-24. And it was easier to fly. But the B-24 was a little faster. And consequently, when you went into Germany and on a bombing mission, you wanted to be as fast as you could go. So they were both good bombers. Both carried about the same bomb load, and both did a very good job. The British didn't really have a very good bomber. That was point number one. They had the Sterling, the Halifax, and until they got the Lancaster, which was an excellent heavy bomber, they really weren't doing a good job. And they weren't hitting the targets at all. And they didn't have a really good bomb sight. When we got in the war, we had the Norden bomb sight. The B-17 was a fine aircraft. It was a quick aircraft. It could take a beating. And so when the British were failing on hitting the targets, they decided that the Americans should have that assignment, and the British would fly at night. And so that's the way the battle plan went. We, after a while, did a pretty good job when we learned how to use the bomb sight, how to fly formation. But we had the assignment, and our losses were quite high to begin with. But later on, it was better. Probably the worst fighter in that respect was the Spitfire. The English Spitfire, when it took off, it could escort you probably across the channel, and then by the time it got over there, the fuel supply was such that they had to get back. We were going into Germany further and further, and until we got the F-51, the Mustang, and when they put tip tanks on it to carry extra gas, until then, we just didn't have an airplane that could take us in and bring us back out. And so we had to go in for practically all of 43 without real fighter support. When the Mustang finally got tip tanks and it was an excellent gun platform, the fighter pilots loved it, then we those little friends, we call them little friends and they'd call us big friends. And it was a wonderful thing to see those guys flying over us and keeping the Germans off our back. At 20,000 feet, and maybe you've got a fire on board, maybe you've lost an engine, maybe you've got a problem that you think is going to keep you from getting back, and you've really got to get out. And incidentally, there's an awful lot of noise, and you've got anti-aircraft going off around you, and you've got fighters coming in on you. When you bail out, you want to get out quick. In other words, you don't want to stay in that aircraft and have it fall apart or explode on you. So when your crew leaves, then out you go. The amazing thing is that how quiet and peaceful it is. You just, it's amazing. The biggest problem is if you're flying on the high right squadron, or one of the squadrons where you're bailing out and have to go through the bomber stream. That can get a little hairy, but once you get past the bomber stream and so on, feels good to get out.
If you get an opportunity to see the Wings of Freedom tour while it's crisscrossing the United States, I highly recommend it. I also recommend taking one of the flights on either the B-17, the B-24, or the Mustang P-51. They're incredible, and it's a lifetime experience you'll never forget. I think you can see why these vintage airplanes serve as valuable educational tools for future generations to learn about World War II and aviation. They're an important part of American history, symbols of freedom, and they represent the sacrifices our servicemen and women make. I'd like to say thank you to those who willingly sacrifice each day to provide security and freedom to us all. And thanks to you for joining us on Museum Access, where every visit is an adventure. I'm Leslie Mueller. I'll see you next time.